Hey guys, welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast. And I'm really delighted to introduce a sponsor for the show, Philip Chan. He's president and CEO of Lightspeed Investing, and he's going to talk all about his company, what he does. We're going to talk about financial literacy, financial planning, investing, and his strategy for helping others achieve financial freedom. So, Philip, welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Dr. Chris?
Yeah, I know, thanks so much for sponsoring the show. And kind of, talk about Lightspeed Investing. It's renowned for its expertise in alternative investments, derivatives, TA, which is technical analysis, futures, commodities, and we'll get right into it.
Sure. So the first thing that I would have to say is, when I got exposed to this style of investing, it was a huge enlightening moment, right? Because on the left side, you have traditional investments where they fall under fundamental analysis when you talk about stocks, real estate, as well as your mutual funds, for example, where it's important to take notes of what's happening around the world, right? Your global economic trends, interrelatability of markets. Here, specifically under alternative investments, we live in the derivative space, right, with futures and commodity financial markets. Everything that you need to be successful is within technical analysis. And what that means is, as long as you know several factors to identify, right, within the charts in front of you, you can do very, very well, as it is based on a skill set that you can cultivate.
Yeah, I love this. And I love this idea of translatable skills because, a lot of doctors, they're listening to this and they think their only skill set is in treating patients, but there's a lot of skills that you can use for other industries investing. So, share a little bit about your background and the journey that led you to Lightspeed Investing.
Yeah, so I pivoted from medicine, and when I went into entrepreneurship because it was a better fit for my personality, I had to, make sure that in order to become the most successful version of myself, it would probably be conducive if I put myself in environments that would fuel that success, right? I always want to invest in myself to cultivate my own skill sets. I really found footing in all things leadership, business and leadership development. And as I continue to stack them, I ran into my current business partner now at a networking event where I learned that for the past 15 years, he's been able to navigate the markets and utilize them as their own ATM strategy, right? So basically, when I learned that, okay, you can utilize a very skills-based approach to turn these markets into something that you can take advantage of, right? I knew I had to look into it more.
Yeah, fascinating journey. And you mentioned ATM. So kind of define what that is for the listeners that are not familiar with ATM.
So the ATM strategy, right, is a strategy that dictates, right, when you look at certain patterns and only when these factors are in confluence. We've identified 5 to 7 factors. Diagnosis, when all the factors are there, do you want to enter in a trade? And I think for to provide some additional context, is important to include this background information, which is the methodologies that we're talking about is really from John Arnold. John Arnold is a gentleman and a Vanderbilt graduate that was able to take 1.5 million to 1.5 billion in 2.5 years when he traded the commodity natural gas correctly and effectively. And this is what coined him to become one of the youngest billionaires in the US at age 33 back in '07. And so my business partner, he had the opportunity to really learn from Arnold at the time because he hosted a lot of trading workshops and seminars in Dallas, Texas. And that's what our methodology is based off of. About 70%, the fact that we represent a group of former medical professionals. So we've added additional prudence, professionalism, and ethics on top of Arnold's methodologies. So I just wanted to first and foremost let the audience know that, if you didn't study medicine, but you actually studied Forbes and you studied successful people, you would find that the top 42% of the world actually play this game for a living. Fascinating to me is, for me, according to traditional advice, becoming a doctor, lawyer, or engineer is one of the best things you can do to set yourself up for success. There's this entire arena within the private investment space that, we're just not aware of. And so, it was very, very eye-opening for me to learn, okay, this industry existed, and then the nuances within the industry is specifically what we're talking about now.
Yeah. I find the financial markets, particularly the equities, really interesting, particularly with technology and AI. And I was listening to a interview by Ken Griffin, the Citadel CEO, and he's just talking about how it's one of the most competitive industries. You're acting on Twitter, speed information. Lightspeed Investing's got an impressive track record. It's got a unique trading methodology. Kind of elaborate on your approach, how it combines traditional strategies with innovative techniques.
I love that. So essentially from Arnold that you want to recognize, and then basically from what Arnold's strategies, we've kind of tweaked and refined them as well and combined them with our techniques. I would say the risk to reward ratio we're targeting here is a 1 to 3 to start. Okay. And then as you grow and scale your skill set, you want to take it from 1 to 3 to 1 to 5 and to 1 to 10. So within the Dow US 30 index, that's the main markets that we trade. This is a game that's about extracting points. So 1 point equates to $5, right? Off of one contract. And so 10 points will then equate to $50, while 100 points equates to $500, right? Based off of one contract. And so the point here, Dr. Chris, is you want to focus on the inputs because inputs will naturally dictate outputs, right? So what I mean by that is if you focus on the ability to enter in trades and enter in a momentum where it allows you to extract the most amount of points as possible during a half an hour to an hour and a half time span, then that's where you're going to see monetary results and profits.
It's very intriguing, and we'll kind of share some insights into your team's recent achievements and the strategies employed to achieve such remarkable results.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really about the accuracy rate, approach, and performance as a surgeon performing microsurgery on a trading platform. So a lot of our clients, they love this style of investing because you have to look at the barrier to entry, the runway, and then the ROI generated. So let's talk about colleges, for example. On average, you're talking about a college degree in 5 years. That's, 5 to 6 figures in student loans. The runway is about 5 years. And then the ROI, you're coming out and you're talking about 40K or 50K entry level position if you're lucky. So here, what we do is we're not talking about 8 to 12% returns on an annual basis. We're talking about on a minimum basis 5 to 10% a day.
Yeah, that's huge.
And conservative.
It's really impressive numbers, and especially with futures, commodities, and we'll talk about a little bit about Bitcoin and crypto a little bit because there's a lot of leverage in those. What are some key strategies, techniques employed in short-term investments with future commodities? You mentioned contracts. You don't have to spill the sauce, but just kind of big picture type strategies.
So the strategies that we use can, we have a toolbox, so to speak. You really want to pay attention to, well, first and foremost is setting up your account with the right brokerage. So even within the brokerage that we use is very strategic. If you just looked up, interactive brokerage or the best brokerages to do this, you would get interactive brokerage as one of them. And you have to recognize in order to just trade one contract of the Dow US 30 market, which is the main one that we trade, right? It's $12,000 on interactive brokerage. Yeah. And if you wanted to trade gold and oil specifically, that's your commodity side of things, we're talking about respectively $17,000 and $27,000. So first and foremost, it starts with the brokerage because it allows you to have a lower barrier to entry. So the brokerage that we use just to trade one contract of the Dow US 30 is $500. Mm-hmm. And then to trade one contract of gold and oil respectively, it's $1,000 or $2,000, right? Compared to that 5-figure barrier to entry, so to speak. So that's number one. There's several factors that you want to look at. So what are these factors, right? Recognition off of candlesticks, okay? And so there's specific candlestick patterns, that we have crafted to identify where a small one is called a hammer. So whenever you see a hammer, that means that the markets will most likely go up. Whenever you see a shooting star, the market's going to go down. And so there's at least 6 of these different patterns that you want to commit to memory, right? That's why physicians do such a great job with this game, like especially if you're a radiologist or pathologist. It's all just based on, memory. I mean, if you remember your organic chemistry days, right?
Yeah.
With your stereoisomers. So, pattern recognition is one. And then the other ones are certain times of the markets to trade. We've identified what we call reversal times, right? Where we know that at these certain times, the markets will likely reverse. And so if you know that it's going to reverse, right, you can take advantage of that and you can enter in on momentum so that, you are basically having the markets side with you as opposed to being against you, right? So that you are more so like a California surfer taking advantages of the waves as opposed to being a surfer that's apprehensive about what will happen to you because you don't know how to navigate it. So these factors include, the proprietary candlesticks that we talk about, the specific times of the day in terms of reversal times. We have indicators that we have implemented called the buying and selling dots. They basically tell you when you should buy and when you should sell, right? I mean, we have about 7 of them, but those are just the first 3 because I don't want to, overwhelm the listeners. And then on top of that, you add, certain techniques to it. So what you have to recognize, the reason why this game is so special is, most people assume that you can only make money when the markets go up. The beauty with following a systematized process based on pattern recognition and identifying factors is that not only does that allow you to make money when the markets go up, but it allows you to make money when the markets go up, down, or sideways. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, when the markets here go down, it tends to go down 67% faster than when it would go up, right? There's different techniques for you to become profitable, but one of the ones that you should really look at, is being a masterful shorts trader is what we call it. Because if you know exactly how to enter when the markets are about to collapse, right? Think about back in 2008 when during the stock markets collapse, a lot of people would freak out. Like, Dr. Chris, if you had $1 million tied to that stock market and the valuations of those shares drop, you're going to freak out because you're like, I have no clue when it's going to come back up. The difference here in futures and commodities is if you time it right and you know what you're doing and you enter the trade before it drops, right? And basically you're being a seller as it drops, you're catching all of that momentum, which translates to profits. So as opposed to taking a loss like you would in the stock market, you would actually profit here.
Because, as a med student, I was reading this Getting Started in Options, which is very similar. And it's, once I learned that you could make money up, down, and sideways, and you could use options to hedge and, different call spreads and different strategies. It was amazing. It was like kind of just like, because, in the past, we just thought that you only make money when the markets go up. And yeah, you talked about so many things. It's like when the downswing happens, it happens very rapidly and very quickly. Yep. You can make, tons of gains in those times.
Brought up stock options, right? Like, you have to realize with investing, there's a difference between, going after investments that could be a good fit for your life, right? Services are actually great, but you have to know how it is compatible with what you're looking to achieve. And so what you have to recognize is futures and commodities is great for creating income because it's short-term investing. So if you want to learn how to make money based on a skill set and you want to, be able to progress where you first start by making sure you have more winners than losers, right? But then you start making a couple $100 and then you can make a couple thousand. And then eventually you can get up to the 5 and 6 figures by dialing up the amount of contracts that you trade, right? And that's what the power of futures and commodity holds. With stock options, it straddles, income creation and wealth creation. Because as you know, you can, swing trade options on a weekly and monthly and yearly manner, so to speak. Or I should say it's just focus on the weekly and monthly because it's short term, but it has that longer runway, right? And that's yearly and longer term. So you had asked earlier, some of our recent, we do this live, Dr. Chris. So in the evenings, we teach for 1 hour, right? Because we host weekly sessions for our clients. But what makes us different is that not only are we teaching at night, but in the mornings, we actually go live in front of you. We make money in front of you. And for a lot of our clients who have their trading platforms set up, they can actually trade alongside us and take profits according to what they're capable of.
Yeah, really powerful. And we'll talk about the medical professional side because you've got people looking to explore alternative investments, and you've got a team, with former medical professionals. And then a lot of this. How does your team view AI and high frequency trading? How do you compete against hedge funds and also crypto as well? Because these are really emerging asset classes as well.
Yeah, I love that. So, I like to operate in the world of abundance businesses. Competition is a great validation of the markets. So all that means for me is, people are interested in this space and there's a demand for this space. And so we focus on, our subject matter expertise, and we're not going to stomp on anyone. We're not going to say, oh, don't ever do an investing over there. Talk about what we found success for us. Methodologies is not only based off of John Arnold, the billionaire, that took 1.5 million to 1.5 billion with natural gas. And that's the manual skill set. It's James Simmons. So James Simmons, he is the founder of Renaissance Technologies. And right now he's in his 80s. But he didn't enter this game until, his 70s or so, right? And if you look him up, his net worth is over $20 billion. And the reason for that is because he's one of the first pioneers that really figured out automated software trading, right? So our firm is essentially trying to be a hybrid of both John Arnold and James Simmons. And as we come from the medical field, one of the best things that we know to have additional prudence, professionalism, and ethics on top of this sensitive topic of finance and investing is to learn from those who have been successful in life of us. So I would say for us, if you're looking for a differentiator, right, it's the fact that number one, we model our success off of John Arnold and James Simmons. That's number one. Number two, what you have to recognize is if you can trade really well, the progression goes like this. You first start by trading for yourself. You then trade for others, which is our money management division, right, that we started as the main business 15 years ago. But if you can trade really well, which is 5 years and up, you can actually trade for institutions, which is why several years ago we were blessed to be able to do a deal with an international bank up in Canada called Scotiabank or Nova Scotia for a 9-figure deal, right? 10-figure deal, so to speak. And it was SBLC because it was standby letter of credit. That means that the bank was willing to put up a certain amount of capital for us to trade, and the firm profited accordingly. In particular, was willing to put up $200 million for us to trade. And that's because we had the ability to perform live and demonstrate our skill set. And because of that, a lot of our clients who they struggled, to make $5,000 a month, and now they're able to make $5,000 a day overnight. It's based on a skill set, and there's a progression in how you would do that. You make sure you got to learn first and foremost. Remember, I come from the surgery discipline. So Dr. Chris, as you know, there's a huge difference between learning how to do surgery versus actually performing on a live patient. Mm-hmm. So, the way that we always teach is making sure that you learn and be a sponge first, and then you want to practice on a simulated environment where you have more winners than losers consistently before you ever transition to the live trading environment. So in this case, it's like you're learning in med school, right? You're absorbing, and then you want to make sure you have more successful surgeries than non-successful surgeries on a mannequin patient before you ever transition to a live patient. And so, on top of the systematized approach to the markets itself, we've also laid out a specific training pathway for our clients to follow, and that's what makes them successful.
It's quite interesting because you're a physician, and I'm a physician, and a lot of the audience are physicians, and and what's interesting is a lot of physicians are risk averse. Like, it's basically don't make mistake, don't get sued. And so they take the same approach to investing. So that's why a lot of them are interested in real estate. And then when it comes to equities and to these strategies that you're talking about, they're very effective, but they're very scary to a lot of doctors. So how do you address this? A lot of doctors may say, oh, how do you distinguish between speculation, trading, investing, gambling, and talk about how your firm is emphasizing ethics and sound practices, and just
I love that question. I love that question. So first and foremost, right, why are you skeptical? Well, you're skeptical because you haven't heard about it before. So it all starts with education and public awareness, which is what we're passionate about, right? That's my first thing. And then the second thing is repeated performance over and over and over again. That's where if you're open to it and you have an open mind, just by listening to this podcast, you can feel free to message our team, right? You can find me on LinkedIn. You can look me up on Philip J. Hawk Chan, and you can say, hey, I heard you on Dr. Chris's podcast. I'll let you come check out some of your live market performance. Because what happens is when you show up, right, and you see us make the money live in front of you, maybe the first time you're like, this is incredible, this amount and this speed. But, was that just a one-time thing? Now, let's say you come again, Dr. Chris, and you see it happen again, right? And the second time you're like, okay, maybe it's coincidence. The third time, the fourth time, and fifth time, as it keeps being a recurring phenomenon, I think both parties have to agree at some point that now it warrants a conversation of substance and depth. We actually go live and we perform in front of you.
Yeah.
Right. And then on top of that, we teach in the evenings so that when we prove what we teach, you know that the information is aligned there.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, when we manage money for others 15 years ago, we do it in a way where you're not sending us any money. Right. If we were to manage money for high net worth individuals, what happens is we would have a contract between you, us, and the brokerage that we utilize, where you would actually have a trading account open, right? And you would put your finances there, and we would trade it for you. So you can actually access it 24/7, whether it be 4 a.m., 4 p.m. We're not talking about us sending you a monthly financial statement. You can access that account and check on it. And then depending on the terms of agreement, we would basically profit split 50-50 on a monthly or quarterly basis. Chris, is as we were able to generate satisfactory returns on a consistent basis, a lot of our clients, they started asking us, well, let's be honest, what if something were to happen to you? And what if something were to happen where you're no longer around? Right? And that's where upon client request, we created this proprietary trading education platform 12 years ago so that they can actually learn the skill set and be more independent. Right. And then as we have been immersed in business and entrepreneurship, as we also gotten feedback lately, for busy professionals who may not have the time to learn and be as active as they would like with this platform, well, guess what? That's where the automated software comes in, because now that software can help you with your trades. Right. So in a way, the education and the software is a more accessible, done with you and done for you version of what we've been doing from the main business, right, 15 years ago. And that's just kind of how we've evolved so that we can cater to, people who have an interest in this, who want to learn about this and get educated the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And it's all about education. It's like if you're something is new, you don't just shun it, you learn about it, you talk to people, and you make that informed decision as opposed to just labeling it as a scam. That's how physicians reacted to, the internet, the web, social media, AI, now Bitcoin. So it's like, but just reach out and learn and talk to people. So looking ahead, what do you envision for the future of Lightspeed Investing, and how do you see it continue to empower individuals in their financial journeys, and how can people learn more about Lightspeed Investing and the resources that you offer?
Yeah, well, we're super passionate in spreading the gospel, right? Bringing this to public awareness. As I mentioned earlier, unless you're someone who is heavily immersed in the financial districts of the world, you really wouldn't be privy to this information. So, we're looking to empower a minimum of 10 million healthcare professionals, business owners, and investors, who want to understand this short-term style of investing, right? Vision for us, with the company, making that impactful contribution to society. And if you're a listener here and you want to learn more because you're a guest or because you're an audience of Dr. Chris's, what I would suggest is feel free to book a call with one of our team members here. You can find the link under the show notes. And when you book that call, you will receive a complimentary access, to our weekly sessions, up to 2 weeks, where at zero obligation, we can actually unveil, what we do on a daily basis when we break down the markets and when we go live. And that way you can see for yourself how accurate we are, how we approach it in a more intimate manner. And would love to, see what your investment history looks like, right? What led you to want to be exposed to short-term investing and build a relationship, right? So feel free to reference that link if you want to get in touch, and we can identify the best 2 weeks for you guys, because of course a lot of fellow physicians are busy, right, Dr. Chris?
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Philip, for sharing your expertise, insights into this really interesting field, really enlightening discussion. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe and follow Philip on all of it, follow and like all his socials, as well as check out the resources will be in the links and show notes. Again, just educate yourself. And thanks to Philip for sponsoring the show and for providing us a really enlightening conversation.
Of course. Thank you so much.